always of some substitutions and changes that you do or don't make, they either come off or they don't. And on that day, I think based on how we were playing, the changes that were made came off.
Yeah, I think Højbjerg. The problem with Højbjerg is he's got this thing about his mannerisms, throwing his arms around, and
Yeah.
people get a bit irritated by it because when he's not playing very well, he seems to be telling everybody else off.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that, but the problem with him when he's in the middle of a busy midfield, he does panic on the ball a bit, and he misses his passes a lot. And I think Conte must be going berserk about that. But when he's got a bit more freedom and he can look forward and he can play that pass like he did to Doherty, he's actually pretty good at that. And I don't know why he doesn't do that a bit more. So, but of course, when you're deep in the midfield, it's not so easy to play that pass.
Yeah, exactly.
When you've got a bit more room forwards.
He's receiving it higher up the pitch, a bit more space and a bit more time, and can pick out options. And he's shown that. I think was it last season? I think he picked out. I can't remember what game it was, but he picked out that pass.
Picked out Sonny, I think, didn't he?
Where he picked beautiful pass for Aurier for him to where he played it into the channel. Just it was a beautiful pass for Aurier to shoot. I think so we know that he's got that vision, but obviously he needs to be in the right position of the pitch to do that. So,
and also because Conte plays these fixed patterns that you've got to follow. I do wonder whether that makes him a bit nervous as well, because it doesn't free you up as a player. You don't think, right, I'm going to do this, because Conte doesn't necessarily want you to do that when you're in a particular place on the pitch.
Yeah, 100%.
So yes, there's that, and of course we've only been with Conte for 10 Premier League games, so it is a short time.
So so I mean we're sort of halfway through. I just want to very quickly. Well, I want to get onto the winning goal. So we score Bergwijn's goal, and it's in extra time. It's at the end of extra time or of injury time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
it's like the equaliser was at the end of injury time, and we my astonishment really is that clearly Spurs thought even then, look, we need to show that we want to go for the jugular. I don't know if they must. Do they know something about a weakness in Leicester? Did they sense something? Because there's been a lot of comparisons made between Spurs and Arsenal celebrating, scoring, equalising against Crystal Palace, and jumping into the crowd and going absolutely ballistic at getting an equaliser. And we've had two players trying to get the ball out of the net in that instant, in that moment, to get back and restart, even though the game was already finished. The game was already finished.
Yeah.
The game, the game was already done. And
don't you think though that's Conte just saying to his players, always try and win the game? I
think so.
Funnily enough, I think Conte did go for the draw against. I know I keep going back to Chelsea, but I think he played for a draw against Chelsea. I don't think he played for the win.
I think he did. I mean, so we're going to come on. We'll come on to that. But I think you're right. I think you're right. So anyway, Leicester kick off. Yeah. Tielemans is mental and tries a threaded through ball in a gap that didn't exist. If any of my players had did that, I'd be absolutely apoplectic. I would be so angry, even if it didn't result in a goal. That they actually tried that in that moment of the game. Kane fucking peach of a pass. Bergie scores. Celebrations were mental, and the Wednesday night, the Thursday. I don't know about you, but I was really, really on a high, a real buzz to just that instant, that moment, that what it represented. Even though it was on a Thursday, I'm thinking it's just 3 points. No, it's just 3 points. 3 points in a league that ultimately may or may not be significant, but the euphoria and the way that all the Spurs fans and everyone was celebrating that that occasion and that moment was just
Don't you
mad.
think though? It's football's all about moments, and that was a moment or a bunch of moments, and that's why we watch the game. You don't necessarily watch the game to win cups. You watch the game for moments like that because they make you so happy.
Yeah,
Winning a cup is a moment,
yeah,
and it's a big moment. But moments like that at Leicester are exactly why people love football. You know, if you're a neutral watching that, you're loving it. If you're a
yeah.
Leicester fan, you're absolutely hating it, and
So much
and
so,
that's what it's all about.
so much so that a Leicester fan hated it
I
so much
saw,
that
I saw,
they recorded it and put it on the internet.
yeah.
I don't
Why
know.
would you do that?
I
It's
don't know.
just so masochistic.
I mean, if I was broadcasting it live, if he was streaming it live, I would, as soon as the ball went in, the recording would have stopped. I wouldn't have focused on the Spurs fans celebrating. I wouldn't have, I don't get it. I really don't get it. So, but yeah, you're right. You're right, Andy. I mean, it is a moment, and a lot of people likened it to the Ajax moment, and I wonder, and this is quite, well, maybe not controversial. I'm sure other people may have thought this, but like the Ajax moment, I wonder if we dwelt on it too much and too long, and the whole significance of it, and then the Chelsea game, which we will discuss, honest. The Chelsea game became our Champions League final, where that was the anticlimax to our extraordinary high against Leicester, because the whole everything about that Chelsea game was anticlimax. So let's go on and talk about that now, because I know that you've been dying to pick the bones out of this one.
Exactly. I mean, first of all, going to Chelsea, as I said earlier, is almost inevitable. You're going to lose because of our record there and what have you. But that shouldn't be the case. That shouldn't be the attitude. And why should it be the attitude? And you would have thought that we would have gone there with a bit of a more positive mindset. But the team that Conte picked, I didn't quite understand it. So he picked the players which effectively gave us a back four and effectively kind of forced a 4-4-2 because you had Doherty there, who's nothing else but a wing back, really. And I just thought, I just couldn't see why he was doing that. Why he left Skip and Lucas on the bench against Chelsea. You've got to play them because they're just so key. And when they did come on and later in the game, you could see the change in the team.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and it was interesting that because we played Chelsea twice within in quick succession, so you have to use those games to learn and to build a plan for the third time that we played them. Especially the second leg. Use the second leg as a dress rehearsal for how we want to, try and set traps for them and set up against them, and to totally change our starting shape was just it just took everyone by surprise, and maybe that was the idea, maybe that was the key. I want to try and take everyone by surprise, but and ultimately, I watched the first half. Well, I watched the game today, and even though Chelsea had quite a lot of possession and had quite a lot of chances, Kane's goal shouldn't have been disallowed. And if Kane's goal had stood, then potentially his plan would have worked, because it would have been right. Okay, we're sitting deep. We're frustrating them, and we're going to hit them on the break. And we did that, and we scored by doing that.
Yeah.
And then, the same referee that deemed that Dele Alli got the merest of touches in the back from Trent Alexander-Arnold in the Liverpool game, and that wasn't sufficient contact for Dele to go down. then said that actually Silva's contact was sufficient. And Dele Alli is accused of cheating and trying to con the referee, but Thiago Silva is lauded as being clever. But
I know,
both
ridiculous.
doing the same thing, you know. And I don't understand how. I don't get the consistency or the lack of consistency. A, with the refereeing approach, but B, with how pundits see, decisions or incidents. And give Gary Neville his due. I'm not saying I'm not his biggest fan, but he immediately said he wasn't having it, and it for him it wasn't a foul, and the goal should have stood. And despite having seen all the replays, he maintained that position throughout. It was not a decision that should have been a foul. As far as he was concerned, the goal should have stood. It was interesting. Yeah.
It was, and a cynic would say the game is corrupt. And there was an agreement with the ref that should a player go down like Silva did, then you've got to give them a free kick. But I don't know. I don't know whether I'd go that far. At the time, I thought it was. But you look at that and you just think it's really odd that it didn't seem to have any reaction from VAR. Nothing seemed to happen. And
do you know what? Go on. Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say, and Tierney for me is one of the worst refs I've seen. So
yeah, I think the interesting thing about this situation, VAR and some of the rulings that are in place. When I watched Match of the Day 2 last night, and they were reviewing the game, and Jenna said, "Well." And I think the commentator said it again when I watched it today. But the referee, having the decision having been made by the referee, the VAR is not going to go against that decision. And I think
I don't understand
that in itself, that stance and that position, has no logic. It doesn't make no sense to me, because that in itself is the whole point of VAR. VAR is there to say, well, actually, that decision that you made is a mistake. It was wrong.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. You need to overturn that. You need to go and have a look at it, or it should be overturned. That's the whole point of VAR. But to turn around and say, well, in that instance, it wasn't a clear and obvious error, and therefore we're going to stick. We're not going to overturn. Then what is the point of VAR? Because he's saying, well, literally in that sense, I said, well, if the referee had given the goal, VAR wouldn't have overruled it. The referee's given a free kick, so VAR was not going to overrule it. What is the point then? It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if you look, I think one of the problems with VAR is the referee's mates, isn't it? It's all his colleagues. So why can't we have VAR as a more kind of independent body? It's only people that need to know the rules, isn't it? You don't necessarily need to be a ref. I mean, refs aren't any bloody good anyway. So that in itself, I think, is a problem, because they're trying to cover up for each other, and that shouldn't have to be the case. I mean, the goal line technology, I know it's done purely by silicon chip and location technology, but that isn't a human being or another referee deciding whether the ball's gone over the line. That's the whole point.
Yes,
you've got to try and remove the subjectivity from it, and hopefully by removing the actual referees from the VAR office, just seems to make sense to me. You have someone a bit more independent there.
Yeah, I think that's certainly something that needs to happen. I think the Australia system would help. Where you can hear where the referees are mic'd up, and you can hear, and then
totally
you hear
agree with that. Like in rugby,
and like in rugby, where you hear the conversation. If the guy in VA in Stockley Park or whatever it's called is mic'd up, and you can hear the conversation between him and the referee, then that's going to remove a